The whole thing is sort of set up. They have to have Prince Harry coming in because he's her ticket. We wouldn't talk about Meghan Markle.
If you've been seeing viral posts claiming the palace quietly audited Meghan and found some secret account, pause. That's the kind of story that spreads fast because it sounds believable, not because it's verified. And the wild part is, the real Sussex story doesn't even need made-up twists to be addictive, because it keeps hitting the same three pressure points that people can't stop arguing about: safety, money, and legitimacy. And once you notice that pattern, you start predicting the headlines before they happen. It really starts with the decision that turned Harry and Meghan from royals into a brand. When they stopped being working royals, they didn't just move countries, they moved business models. One side of the internet saw it as survival and freedom. The other side saw it as cashing in on royal status while rejecting royal rules. And that disagreement never went away, just found new excuses to flare up every time they launched something, sued someone, or told their version of events again. But that wasn't even the biggest long-term trigger, because the moment Harry left, one question became a permanent storyline: security. Here's what people miss. Security isn't just about bodyguards. It's about access, visibility, and whether Harry and his family can realistically move around the UK without becoming a target. That's why his dispute over protection has dragged on for years, then why it keeps coming back into the news cycle. In late 2025, multiple outlets reported that his UK security arrangements were being reviewed after he wrote directly to the Home Secretary, asking for a reassessment. The Guardian, +2, Sky News +2, and of course, the internet reacted exactly how you'd expect. Supporters heard a dad trying to protect his family. Critics heard a prince demanding special treatment. And the loudest voices on both sides weren't even debating the details. They were debating what they think Harry represents now. But while that battle stayed alive, another one got even louder: the business side. Because here's the truth nobody likes admitting out loud. Once you leave the institution, your income has to come from somewhere. That's where the deals came in, and that's where the backlash became a sport. The Spotify partnership, ending in 2023, became one of those moments where everyone picked a side instantly. Spotify and Arcuel Audio said they mutually agreed to part ways, and reporting at the time focused on expectations versus output. The Guardian +1, and that's all it took for the narrative war to explode again. Some people framed it like a corporate mismatch. Others framed it like a public humiliation. Either way, it fed the same hunger the internet always has for this: story proof that the Sussex escape plan is either genius or falling apart. And what happened? Next would keep the spotlight on Harry in a totally different way, because while people argue about brand deals, Harry has been building a second identity. The royal who fights the tabloids in court, he won damages against Mirror Group newspapers in the phone hacking case, with reporting outlining findings that unlawful information gathering was widespread at the publisher and detailing the damages awarded. Sky News +1. And he's also been involved in other legal actions tied to the British press, like the case involving the Daily Mail's publisher that Reuters reported is set to go to trial in 2026. Reuters this matters because it's not just celebrity lawsuits, it's Harry turning pain into a mission. To supporters, it's brave. To critics, it's obsession. But either way, it keeps him in the headlines, even when he's not launching a show or giving an interview. And it adds fuel to the biggest emotional theme in all Sussex coverage, that Harry believes he's fighting the machine that destroyed his trust in the media. And while Harry's story leans into courts and security, Meghan's story leans into reinvention. That's the part that fascinates people, because it's the most polarizing. One month, it feels like philanthropy. The next month, it feels like lifestyle. Then suddenly, it's media again. In December 2025, people reported Meghan sent a newsletter tied to her lifestyle brand, as ever, sharing family holiday details in a very close-to-the-audience tone. People.com +1 to fans. It's warm and normal. To critics, it's calculated and they'll point out that everything becomes content eventually. Around the same time, Netflix listed a holiday special with love. Meghan, holiday celebration. With Netflix's own pages describing it as a festive special about traditions, crafts, and recipes, Netflix +1, and the reviews. Let's just say not everyone was gentle. The Guardian, but here's the clever part, whether people love it or hate it, they still talk about it. And talk time is basically the oxygen of modern celebrity. Then came another pivot that made people suspicious all over, again because the Sussexes have one talent that even critics admit they know how to change the conversation. In late 2025, Reuters reported they were revamping Arkewell's charitable arm, shifting to a fiscal sponsorship model and rebranding as Arkewell Philanthropies. Reuters' other outlets and their representatives described staff reductions as inevitable. Under the new operating model, Hollywood Reporter plus 2AX, iOS plus 2 now, if you're not deep into nonprofit structures, fiscal sponsorship sounds like corporate word salad. But the internet instantly turned it into a personality test. Supporters. This is what scaling looks like: less admin. Wait, more impact? Critics. They're always restructuring, always relaunching, always pivoting. And that's why people stay hooked, because every factual update becomes emotional ammo. But that still wasn't the messiest part, because right when you think it's just security, lawsuits, shows, and charity, the rumor machine kicks the door open. This is where you'll see the most viral claims, titles being stripped, palace punishments, secret investigations, and dramatic stories that sound like a thriller. And look, sometimes there is real discussion about titles. It's just not the movie-style one, meeting and it's done. In reality, stripping styles, titles, and honors is complicated, formal, and usually very public. The House of Commons Library briefing lays out the legal status of certain titles and the processes by which honors can be removed. House of Commons Library and Buckingham Palace's own statement about initiating a formal process regarding Prince Andrew in October 2025 is a perfect example of how official and structured these steps are when they're actually happening. The royal family plus one. So when you see a random post saying they stripped Meghan's title overnight, that should trigger your common sense. If something like that were real, it wouldn't arrive as a faceless rumor with zero paperwork. It would involve formal announcements, clear legal steps, and a level of scrutiny that makes secrecy almost impossible. The rumors never stop. Why? Because titles are the ultimate symbol in this story. They represent status, legitimacy. And who won? Even people who swear they're tired of royal drama still click when they see anything about titles because it feels like the final score in a fight that never ends. And that brings us to the uncomfortable truth. The Sussex saga isn't one story. It's a bunch of storylines stacked on top of each other, constantly feeding the next one. Security keeps resurfacing because it's tied to safety and identity. The Guardian plus one business projects keep resurfacing because people judge whether they're earning attention or using it. The Guardian plus one legal battles keep resurfacing because they turn personal history into public spectacle, with courts as the stage. Sky News plus one and title rumors keep resurfacing because everyone wants a clean ending. But real life doesn't do clean endings. So when you see the next headline at another review, another launch, another lawsuit, ask yourself one question. Which pressure point is this hitting? Is it safety? Is it money? Or is it legitimacy? Because that's the machine behind the obsession. The Sussexes don't just get covered by the media. They've become a mirror people, project their beliefs about race, class, tradition, celebrity, and power onto them, and then argue with strangers like it's personal. And the wildest part is, the story is still moving right now. The security conversation is still alive. Sky News plus one, the charity structure is changing. Reuters plus one, Meghan's lifestyle push is expanding. L plus one, so the next chapter isn't going to be one shocking reveal. It's going to be the same pattern, with a new spark. And if you want a follow-up that breaks down the most viral Sussex rumors, what's actually sourced, what's twisted, and what's pure internet fiction, your next video is going to be a lot darker than people expect. One quick correction before we go deeper. The secret audit hidden account storyline you pasted is not something credible outlets have verified. The real December 2025 reporting is about Harry's UK security being reviewed after he wrote to the Home Secretary, plus Arkewell's restructure, and Meghan's holiday lifestyle rollout, Netflix plus for The Guardian, plus for Sky News, plus for Now. Here's the part that keeps retention high, because it feels like the plot is moving, even when nothing big happens. The security story is basically a pressure gauge. Every time it spikes, it tells you the Sussex situation is heating up again. In December 2025, reporting said Harry's security arrangements while visiting the UK were under review after he wrote to Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, with mention of a requested risk assessment tied to REVIC, the committee that handles protection decisions. The Guardian plus one that sounds dry, but it isn't, because people aren't reacting to the paperwork. They're reacting to what the paperwork implies. If the review goes his way, critics immediately say special treatment. If it doesn't, supporters say they're putting his family at risk. And the reason it becomes so heated is because both sides think they're arguing about safety, but they're really arguing about status, whether Harry is out or still in enough to receive top-level protection. That debate starts to boil. Something else drops that shifts attention away from security and toward money without even saying the word money. The Arkowell Change. Reuters reported the couple planned a revamp of their Arkowell charitable arm, moving to a fiscal sponsor model and rebranding as Arkowell Philanthropies. Reuters plus one then people reported the restructure came with staff reductions, that the couple described as inevitable, while also pushing back on talk that the organization was shutting down. People.com now watch how the internet handles that. A normal person hears, they changed the admin structure. The internet hears, something's wrong. Supporters spin it as streamlining, less overhead, more flexibility. Critics treat it like the latest in a pattern of rebrands and resets. And the reason that matters for retention is because it taps into a bigger question people obsess over. Are they building something stable, or constantly shifting because the last thing didn't land? But Meghan didn't just lean into philanthropy headlines. She leaned into vibes. That's where, as ever, and the Netflix holiday, special become gasoline. On The Conversation, Netflix's own Tudum coverage framed with love. Meghan, holiday celebration, as a cozy seasonal drop with tips and traditions. And Netflix lists it as a 2025 TV PG reality lifestyle special. Netflix plus one, and then around Christmas. People reported Meghan shared a cozy family holiday picture through her, as ever, newsletter games, traditions, small details that make fans feel like they're peeking behind the curtain. People. That's not accidental. It's a strategy that does two things at once. First, it softens the brand. Instead of global controversy, it's family traditions. Second, it forces critics into a weird position, because attacking holiday content can make someone look overly harsh, even if they dislike everything else. And that's why this story doesn't die. Every move has a built-in argument attached. Now here's where things get really interesting. Because the louder the public brand gets, the louder the rumor machine gets too. When people feel like they're watching PR, they start hunting for what's really going on. And that's how you get viral posts about secret palace punishments. Titles being stripped, sudden investigations, hidden document stuff that reads like a thriller. So let's break the rumor pattern down in a way that keeps viewers hooked without repeating yourself. Rumor number one, they stripped titles overnight. Reality, big changes involving titles. Styles aren't typically silent, instant, or casual. They involve formal steps, legal considerations, and public messaging, especially if it becomes a constitutional issue. That's why, when something is real, you'll see the official paper trail and mainstream coverage move together, not random anonymous posts leading the story. Rumor number two, the palace is secretly building a case. Reality, the palace is built on discretion. Yes, but the bigger the claim, the harder it is to keep contained. When stories involve serious allegations, credible reporting usually comes with either named sources, documented filings, or on-the-record statements. Not. Rumor number three, this is the final breaking point. Reality. People have been saying final breaking point for years. What actually happens is more predictable. A cycle of spike, backlash, countermessage, and reset. And if you want the audience to feel like they're learning something useful, give them a simple spot, the fake checklist, fast, punchy, memorable. If a claim says, shocking palace decision but gives no date and no document, cites a source close to the family but no outlet you can verify, sounds like it was written to trigger outrage first and facts second. Then it's probably content designed to farm clicks, not inform people. Now, here's the hook that keeps them watching to the end. Even when a rumor is fake, it still tells you something real. It tells you what people want to believe. Some people want a narrative where Meghan is constantly targeted by the institution. Some want a narrative where she's a mastermind using royal fame, and Harry sits in the middle, either as the loyal husband who chose love, or the prince who burned bridges and can't go back. That's why even something like a Netflix holiday special becomes evidence. Two different sides. One side sees harmless branding, the other sees calculated positioning. Netflix plus one, and the security review is the same. Paperwork becomes symbolism. Sky News plus one. So what happens next? If you're building this into a high-retention video, you end with a forward-looking cliffhanger that feels smart, not clickbaity. The next big shift won't come from one dramatic announcement. It'll come from whichever pressure point spikes first security decisions. A major media project, landing or flopping, or another structural pivot that the internet interprets as proof. Sky News Plus to Reuters plus two, and here's the twist. The Sussex story isn't just about them anymore. It's become a global argument about power, identity, and who gets to control the narrative. So the real question isn't who's right, it's who's winning the story this month. And in the next video, we can break down the top 7 viral Sussex claims people keep reposting, what's actually sourced, what's exaggerated, and what's pure fantasy dressed up as insider info. If you want, paste the next competitor transcript to and I'll match their pacing while making yours cleaner, faster, and way less repetitive. Because once you zoom out, you realize something. The Sussex story isn't chaotic. It's predictable, not in a boring way in a wait. That's actually true way. Every time the noise dies down, one of 3 things drags it back to the top: security, strategy, or symbolism. And December 2025 basically gave us all 3. First, security. Because this isn't a celebrity preference, debates is a headline that implies consequences. Multiple outlets reported that Harry's UK security arrangements were under review after he wrote directly to Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, with the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, Revic, asking for a refreshed threat assessment through its risk process. The Guardian, plus one. That kind of update sounds technical, but it lands emotionally. It immediately revives the biggest argument people have about Harry: is he a private citizen now, or still royal enough to be treated like one? And here's the trick: either outcome feeds the story. If the review seems favorable, critics scream privilege. If it's unfavorable, supporters scream they're risking his family's safety. So the conversation never ends. It just changes costumes. But then the next pressure point hit: the structure behind the brand. Reuters reported that Harry and Meghan were revamping their charitable organization to expand global philanthropic work. Reuters and People reported the change included staff cuts, the couple described as inevitable, along with a shift to a fiscal sponsorship model under the name Archewell Philanthropies. People.com. Now watch what happens every single time they restructure something. People don't treat it like admin. They treat it like a signal. Supporters read, more reach, more flexibility. Critics read, another pivot, because something didn't work. And the moment those two interpretations collide, viewers get addicted because they think the restructure is a clue to what's going on behind the scenes. And that's where Meghan's timing gets interesting. Because while one side is arguing about charity mechanics, she's pushing a totally different mood into the conversation: warmth, family, lifestyle. Netflix openly positioned with love. Meghan, holiday celebration as a festive lifestyle special.